Good evening. Hello. How are you? Thanks very much for joining us here tonight. My name's Eddie, and this is a herd event brought to you by Nexus Enfield, the Violence Reduction Unit. A lot of different partners coming together to to talk to you, to listen to you. It's really important at any stage in this event you get in touch. You let us know what you think, you ask the questions. We've got a number of professionals who are online, uh, and me, because I'm not a professional or anything, but a number of professionals are online to help with all sorts of things. What are we dealing with today? Well, we're dealing with a few of them that tick boxes for me. Cost of living. Yeah, I'll go and do my shopping. I see how much that food costs. It's a lot, but how can we help you with that? We've got a guy called Adam French, fantastic guy, to help us with some great ideas. We're talking of mental health. We've got a child psychologist, Todd Laverne, is going to be here to help us. We're dealing with the safety of our children. Nathaniel Pete is a man I know very, very well. Ticks a number of boxes, does a number of things, but he knows his stuff also. And I'll be looking forward to talking about career options with a head teacher I've not spoken to before. So I'm hearing that she's absolutely fantastic. So I'm looking forward to it. Do some of the tidy things, shall we? The house rules, right? As I say, it's brought to you by the Mayor of London's Violence Reduction Unit and Nexus Enfield Council. This show will be dealing with safety of children, ways to help with ever increasing cost of living, advice about and on the well-being of our children and their mental health. I need to tell you that the actress Diane Parrish is the founder of Herd, wanted parents and indeed carers or in Enfield to be heard, to be able to receive advice and support, and bring parents from all walks of life with skills to navigate what is absolutely the most difficult job you or I will ever have. I'm going through it at the minute. Not only is my child picking options in an area where apparently there are increased muggings, but he's also going through that, what do I call it? Speech impediment phase, where every time I talk to him, so I'm told it's a phase he'll pass through. So I'm on here as the host of the show, but believe me, I am interested too. Now, so that I don't dominate it, whatever medium you're watching this on, there should be a facility for you to get in contact, for you to let us know what you think, to ask a question. I do like these types of shows, right? Because they're real shows helping real people with real problems, right? And there's a lot of people talking at us and saying you should be able to do whatever it is, but it's hard. I know it's hard, and I hear you, I see you, and so do all these partners who've come together for tonight. So let's get started, shall we? As a lady I've spoken to many times before, I'm not sure that we can say it's a new job, but it's certainly a newly established unit from the Mayor of London. I'd like to welcome first up to the show, Lib Peck. Nice to see you again, Lib. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, Eddie. Nice to see you too.
Director of the Violence Reduction Unit. Can we still call it new, Lib?
I don't think we can actually. I was surprised you did say that because we've been up and running now for 4 years. Actually, 4 years this month. So yeah, I'm not sure that qualifies as new anymore, does it?
Okay. Well, I'm happy then. Well, hopefully we can talk about what it is and how people can help and evidence its success or failure in the short time we have together. Then, what is it first of all? The Violence Reduction Unit.
Great, thanks. Well, it was obviously set up 4 years ago, as I've just said. It was set up by the Mayor of London, and it was really to put the emphasis on prevention and early intervention. I think too often we look at criminal justice just through the enforcement lens. And what we wanted to do was really look at how we can prevent violence with the idea that it's not inevitable, and we need to put young people, in particular, the journey of a young person, at the sort of centre of our thinking. And to sort of map that out and think, where can we use our investments? Because we've got some money, we've got some budget, we're very lucky to have that. Where can we use the partnerships, the people that we work with to best effect? And to do all of that, we need to be doing some research and making sure that we're supporting young people, inspiring young people, and providing them with opportunity. And over the last couple of years, we've reached 150,000 young people. We're operating at the moment in 70 schools across London. And, obviously things like Today, which has been brought together by Herd, trying to support parents in the ways that they want. So it's really a collective belief, I suppose, that if we all genuinely work together and that we try and change the system, but we also put young people at the heart of that system, that we can do a lot more to prevent violence.
How much do you recognise, though? I was a youngster once, a long time ago, but how much do you recognise that, a lot of the challenges for young people happen between 3 and 5 after school, where some of those facilities that are no more? It's really difficult because most of us don't finish work at 3 o'clock, do we? So
No.
our children maybe have a couple of hours where they don't have the normal type of parental supervision.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about that. And 10 years of austerity has made that even harder, because a lot of those kind of lifelines in terms of youth club and youth workers, which play that such a key role, have been lost. But what we do as a unit, and having spoken to an enormous number of young people and working incredibly closely with our Young People's Action Group, so that we are listening to young people, not just thinking we know what they want. We have put a lot of investment into to youth workers. That trusted relationship with a mentor, with a youth worker, is a key thing. And so that period after school hours, where you're right, it is, that's where young people are probably most vulnerable, unfortunately, to getting caught up in violence. It's a period that we have focused on in terms of our Stronger Futures programme, which is supporting those community groups, our My Ends programme, which is looking at supporting youth workers in some of those key neighbourhoods which have real challenges around deprivation and therefore violence, and making sure that we have got lots of sporting activities for things like the Easter and summer holidays, but also after school hours. So very much recognise that as an important period.
I mean, look, I could always talk to you for a long time because yours is a nub. I don't want to reference what's happening with police because that's difficult and challenging, one imagines. Let's stay on the positive foot. I know that my youngster's now doing his Duke of Edinburgh Award, which is really great and takes up quite a bit of his time, which I think takes him away from that PlayStation, and it's great. If somebody is listening to this, and there are people watching this right now, parents, young people, one imagines, how could they contact with you? How could they help you? How could they get help from you? What's the mode of communication?
Well, there's a simple kind of email that they could come through to the Violence Reduction Unit at, which is through obviously the Mayor of London and through City Hall, which people could Google. We also partner with a fantastic organisation called the Local Village Network, which again is something that talks about all of the community initiatives going across London. And it's also, I think, quite important that they perhaps contact their local authority, because they will hold some lists about the kind of organisations that are doing work on the ground. So any of those means they can get in contact with us. And obviously today we're talking a lot about parents, and we do support parenting networks in most of the London boroughs, and that might also be a way for people to connect in.
Well, please keep doing what you're doing. Keep being, undoing and helping things like this. And I look forward to you bringing some more young people onto the show, because right now it's a challenging time for everybody. And we appreciate your time very much, Liv.
It certainly is. Thank you, Eddie. Good to speak to you and look forward to that. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
That's Liv Peck there, who chairs the Violence Reduction Unit for the Mayor of London. And oh, what a job it is. I mean, how many times have we talked about some of the challenges out there? So please, they're doing stuff, maybe not as much stuff as was available when we were youngsters, but definitely get in touch with those, as you can see there, local village networks, and do it. If at any time you want to get in touch, you can see the scroll at the bottom there of different ways that you can get in touch. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, spread the word. This is Herd. Now, look, let's introduce somebody else, shall we? In true disclosure, this person's father taught me at school, and And I always say there are only two men that I passed the exams with, any exams at all, and one was his father. So his father was a great man, is a great man. Nathaniel Peat, multi-award winning entrepreneur, international speaker, business coach, engineer, pilot, father, a man of many talents. Also, the founder of The Safety Box, a company whose training and development program assists with reducing youth violence and helping young people develop important skills such as leadership, communication, and conflict resolution. Greetings to you, Nathaniel.
Yeah, it's good to be with you this evening, Eddie. Good to see you again.
We've done a few of these rodeos in different ways, and one of the things, I got approached by somebody who gave me this idea, and I thought that conflict resolution was an interesting one, and they wanted to start a debating society, and I thought that what a brilliant idea, a reasoning society. That's the sort of thing that I imagine that somebody like you would advocate in terms of enhancing communication skills, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely to talk about the issues of why youth violence, comes about, or violence impacting youth. I don't actually like saying the statement youth violence, because not all young people are violent, but it's violence that impacts young people.
Yes.
To actually stimulate conversation around this is really important, because through the conversations you find needs, and then when you find out needs, you can find a solution to that need or provide for that need. Creating the forum of communication with youth is essential to understand and listen to what their needs are.
Well, hold on, is that us talking to them or them talking to each other, or both? Because quite a lot of the time we talk, we're doing it today. Quite a lot of the time we talk about young people without having them at the table.
Well, I mean, it's critical to have them at the conversation. It's actually to direct that conversation would be useful, and that's where parents need to think about ways in which they can communicate better with their children. Being that, whether they're doing an activity, for example, going out to play football with them, or even playing a game, engaging in that activity with them whilst they're playing that game, and then opening up that safe space for them to actually feel comfortable to actually have that conversation. Because when a young person's coming in from school and you ask them, how has your day been, they're gonna like, all right, it's all right. It was okay, it was okay, you know what I mean? But the thing is, it's like the conversation then can be stimulated when the activities that they enjoy doing, when they're doing something that they love, then a conversation can actually.
But you make a point, and it is really important to emphasize that, because quite often you have to be doing it with them. Now, when we have these conversations, quite a lot of time, the biggest barrier to doing any of the things that you're advocating here is time. We've got to earn a living. We've got to live. It's a cost of living crisis. We're struggling to make ends meet. I'm working 2 jobs. What do you want me to do? I wish I could be at home all the way through the school holidays. But you are right. I mean, even we always talk about eating together, maybe taking a walk. I find it with my own children.
Absolutely. I mean, on a car journey, talking to them on the car journey instead of, picking up, phone calls which might be coming through, or listen to your music or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Whilst you're driving, I mean, there are so many different ways, and young people are being pulled so frequently in through social media. I mean, the Safety Box is working extensively, both on the front line with young people that are on county lines, as well as working within the Stronger Futures funding from the London Violence Reduction Unit after school provisions, because violence with young people occurs between those hours of 3 and 10 p.m. And it's so essential for these after school provisions to be provided for their young people. That means after school club, engaging them into various different activities in terms of keeping them safe, enrolling them on self-defense courses, or even looking at boxing clubs or other martial arts clubs that they can be involved in. Parents really need to be aware in terms of what they're watching, because a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of music videos where you have gangs which are talking about particular issues, talking through their music by spitting or rapping. Young people refer to it as spitting, but it's rapping for those people who are not aware with the colloquial type of tongue of young people. They basically are influenced through social media, Instagram and TikTok. It's being able to monitor all of those things to stop and prevent young people getting involved in these things.
Well, hold on, because I'm going to do what I always do, which is to hold the people who are saying that to account. it's a lot easier to say that, Nathaniel, than to do it. You know, I can tell you that PlayStation 4 is a great babysitter. That, you know, sometimes if you need a moment as a parent and you're thinking about violence reduction, you're more comfortable with your child being in your home than being out on the street. Your child knows how to navigate the operational systems that you're talking about better than you. So while we say it today, help us to help each other. So, because we imagine that them being on Fortnite or whatever is good as they're in the house. Are there things that we think are good and perhaps are not as good as we think?
I mean, I'm talking about, you know, violent music, let's say, you know, with drill that is on YouTube, where you're talking about gang members that are talking about certain things. I'm not necessarily, you know, talking about games that they might play, but I am talking about the manipulation, the violent videos which gangs will put out, the stuff which they put on social media. We know for a fact, we've even worked in rural Britain, whereby young people have been groomed from London gangs via social media, via things like Instagram, via TikTok, via, you know, YouTube. And so it's important that parents understand the risks associated with this and how they're exploited into this. You know, if they're going missing from school, if they're, you know, acquiring money, if they've got, you know, clothes, they've got jewelry, they've got trainers, you know, if they've got excessive, you know, text messages or phone calls, if they've got two phones, if they've got, you know, maybe two smartphones, or even, you know, a smartphone with another brick phone. You know, it's understanding this. It's actually going online and actually researching how to spot the signs so that you're able to safeguard your young people.
You're listening to Nathaniel P. He runs something for the purpose of this called the Safety Box, and we're talking about the safety of our children. Maybe it's something you're finding difficult. Maybe you're worried about your child being in danger. Maybe you'd like some help, guidance, intervention. We will take your thoughts. We will try to, well, Nathaniel will try to answer your questions. We've got a head teacher, we've got a finance guru, and we have a child psychologist. This is heard, and we're trying to make sure that people are indeed heard. Sorry for interrupting you, Nathaniel. I'm just conscious that people are joining us all the time, and I just want to let them know that we are reasoning. You know, how did you find it then? Because quite often, I resist experts on my radio show unless they come to me with a little bit of expertise personally in what they're talking about. So I know you're a parent. Have you found anything in particular more challenging than you would have thought?
Probably, you know, I mean, you know, being a first-time dad, actually, you know, raising a child that you know, is coming up, you know, behavioral sort of ways and methods in which they can be engaged. A lot of young people will basically misbehave because of the lack of attention, and sometimes they want that attention. Getting into them, I mean, my son experienced a little bit of trauma in his life because, you know, I'm a divorcee and we went through divorce. I'm remarried now, but he went through that when he was younger, and it was actually engaging a psychologist that could give tools in terms of how he could share his emotions by writing them on a piece of paper and screwing it up in a ball and put it in the mouth of a worry monster. That's when he was younger. Of course, he can't do that now. He's a bit too like, it's a little toy.
Oh, that is lovely.
They put their
That's
worries
lovely.
You know, and this is just a way to vent off trauma.
Yes.
And then understanding basically activities, going out and doing things together is important. You know, I grew up in North London. I grew up in Tottenham. I myself got involved in a little bit of stuff when I was younger. You know, I didn't do too well at school, and so that lived experience of understanding and seeing violence when I was younger also plays into the conversation. I mean, the work that we do at the Safety Box, most of my staff members are credible messengers, those people who have lived experience on violence themselves. Some, you know, we've actually got, you know, someone who's committed murder on the team. You know, there's individuals that have had 17 years worth of prison because of burglary and gang violence. And it's these type of credible messengers that can then talk to a young person. My team have effectively taken knives off the streets of young people. And this is where parents have reached out to the support organizations like us, the Safety Box, in order.
How can they do that? That's the first question I can see going across the screen. The first one, Nathaniel, sorry for interrupting you again. if I'm listening to any of this and I want to, let's say, learn more about our computer devices, on how I can put parental control, or what I can do and how I can talk to, is there a place that you know that I can start?
Absolutely. I mean, we actually hold seminars for parents around all of these different devices that people have. We have also the Josh Hanson Foundation, in fact, that does a lot around this. In fact, the Children's Society. There is quite a long list of support organizations that parents can tap into. If you go into the London Violence Reduction Unit website and on Google, if you type this in, support organizations or voluntary and community organizations, you'll find a list of various different organizations around the capital that can support in any parents that might be worried about their children because of what's happening online, or even if they're being exploited, or they feel as though they're being exploited into gangs through child criminal exploitation.
Do you not get a feel quite often before that something isn't right? My child's being bullied, they're not behaving in the same way. So quite often it's not the sharp end, isn't it? It's the worry of something.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely. And parents oftentimes don't know what to do. I mean, we've worked with so many different parents that have come to us and they just have no idea. Oftentimes it is just about being equipped with the knowledge. If they start to disengage in school, if they lose a significant, type of interest in particular activities that they're doing, if they're, meeting unfamiliar people, they're now starting to talk a different way with street talk, where they're starting to say, yeah, I'm saying something like, I'm going OT and it's straight real talk, you get me 100. And they start talking in this colloquial tongue. It's understanding terminology.
But hold on. Again, you see, you're getting as old as your dad now, aren't you? So because we all code switch, don't we? The problem is if my boy says, look fam, to me, because he's got the wrong code in the wrong place, but that we all code switch.
We all do code switch, but it's about being informed on the new terminology. So there's websites where you can download the latest slang for London. And this is where parents can become equipped with the knowledge. So if you're hearing a young person starting to talk about GM means go missing. That means they're going to go on a county line. OT means they're going out of time. That's a county line run. Yeah, if they're talking about phone off, it means they're going to turn off this smartphone, go onto another phone, which is now the trap phone, which is the drug trafficking phone. And so it's being familiar with all of that. My lighting's just gone off. I hope you can still see me. But it's about allowing this type of knowledge gain and skills level of your own understanding of this in order for you to kind of equip your young people better, and also to safeguard your young person and note the signs of what's happening. It's about the emotional well-being of your child as well, because you need to build emotional resilience. You have to talk to them positively. You've got to give them words of affirmation constantly and continually, because they will oftentimes hear negative words. And it's those types of words which you speak into a young person, that when they're encountered with somebody that's trying to manipulate or exploit them, they have the strength then to stand. It's by engaging them in positive activities, football, boxing, martial arts, any outdoor activity which will assist them with their confidence and also with self-esteem. That is a key thing.
Do you make the distinction, sorry Nathaniel, between what they do, i.e. that literally they're just coming back from karate now, what they do and what you do with them? Do you make that distinction?
Absolutely. A distinction needs to be made there, and I mean, in terms of whether they're going to karate, a great thing for parents to do is not go to the karate and watch it, but actually go to the karate and participate in the lesson with them. The growth, then I tell you,
that, Dad. No, you don't want to see me as a white belt with a. I'm not ready for that. But I take your point.
Parents really need to know, other parents. Who are the other parents? Understanding.
Just stick a pin in that. Let me encourage people to get some questions, because I think that our time is running out. But I do.
Let me flag my hand. Hold on, just
you do that, and I'll just talk for a second. So you're listening to Heard. It's an opportunity, to deal with various aspects. So we deal with mental health, we're dealing with schooling, we're dealing with safety, we're dealing with financial literacy. And I'm talking to Nathaniel Pete here, who's doing stuff, who's living stuff, and we're talking about navigating difficult situations, maybe them on the internet, conflict resolution, them being bullied under the influence of other people, how to recognize signs, county lines, all of those things have come up. Now, there is a kind of a false economy that I find quite a lot, which is that people think that they're doing it well and therefore their child can never be a victim of X or Y. And I always say be very, very careful of that false economy, because my child is a lot more impressed by his peer group than he is by me. No, Nathaniel?
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be aware and know that your child is not an angel when they go out. You know, I mean, all of us when we were growing up didn't do things in our house that we probably did outside.
That's right.
And so you've got to think about it from that perspective.
That's right.
And you've got to trust somewhat. You know, you have to have an objective approach when you're dealing with your young people. You know, a major issue that is coming up in schools at the moment is vapes. You know, they're setting off alarms. Young people are vaping now like mad. And there's two things which are happening, in fact, where vapes are actually sold. And young people will buy vapes and sell them as a way of making money. Vapes, it stimulates a hormone known as dopamine. But you get dopamine from other things. Like you could get dopamine from you know, just good being nice with people. Dopamine from someone saying that, you know, they like your haircut or complimenting your clothes, or actually going out and actually doing some exercise. These hormones which are lacking, I think, is because of a lack of exciting activities that young people do. A way in which
what can we do? We know they're dangerous. I can see it on here. Vapes are a huge concern to me and to my friend. Vaping is a trend. I see young people with them every single day. How do you A, try to keep your child away from it, and B, maybe more difficultly, Nathaniel, once the child has started it and everybody else in the school is on it, help.
Again, all right. So I've got to tackle the first thing. It's like substance abuse with anything else. It becomes an addiction. And the reason why it's done, it is to basically settle and calm perhaps emotions. We're working with a young 13-year-old at the moment. He's vaping so much, and he also smokes as well. And it is about getting them off of this addiction. You know, surround them with positive, engaging activities. This will help to distract them. Take them out into the country, or try to go for a walk in the park, or do something significant that is sports related. This is a way in which you can help them. And then also find out methodologies of how you can break addictive cycles. There's a lot of literature on the internet. There's lots of resources on YouTube. I think these days it takes time.
The very thing that I've told you that people say they don't have.
It takes time, and the skill sets that you need, honestly, these days, you can find out so much. And I think more than ever now, the access to information is so available. And oftentimes, all we've got to do is Google, watch a video, understanding trauma as a key, adverse childhood experiences lead to potential negative outcomes, understanding trauma and how to think.
We've run out of time, right? But listen, we haven't got on to nitrous oxide. We haven't got on to Andrew Tate. We haven't done any of that. So obviously there is room for further discussion. And in a way, my way is I'd love some people to have been in a room with us. But you can imagine that would be a fiery and interesting debate. Couple of quick things. Do parents volunteer for the safety box?
Yeah, we've had parents that have volunteered for the safety box in the past. And if anyone's interested in volunteering for the safety box, you can go to the website, www.thesafetybox.org. If you look on the job section, and there'll be a tab there for volunteers, and people can engage in volunteering opportunities with the safety box.
You're an entrepreneur. When did you know that you were going to... Because I still don't know what entrepreneurs are. I know what they are, but I don't know if they make stuff up and get lucky. I don't know if they always knew they were going to do it. I'm going to talk to a teacher in a little while. And certainly I've just tried to go through the options with my youngster, which was literally the little hair that I had where going. Were you always going to be an entrepreneur?
I think from my parents, they always said that, you know, you need to create something else Because if you're only paid 12 times a year, something's wrong. Because if that 12 times a year that you're getting paid is pulled up underneath your feet, then something's wrong. You've got to think of other ways. So use your skill sets to make an income. And so, I learned martial arts when I was very young, and that was something which I used at university to make a bit of money. And
how do you use martial arts to make money?
Well, I mean,
hurt people?
In the same way that someone's going to teach a young person that's on the county line, when we take them off the county line, give them an FA coaching qualification level 1, get a school, basically after school provisions, parents will pay £10 a head for 30 kids in a class to stay until 4 o'clock because they're working till 5 and they can't get to the school maybe till 6. And so what happens is that young person now with 30 children in the class, £10 a head, 30 kids, that's £300 in 1 hour worth of football coaching after school. But if they've got 5 schools, guess what? They've got £1,500. If they've got a whole month worth, that's £6,000. That's more money than they're going to make on a county line. That's the type of intervention we will do in replacing a drug county line with a young person with a skill set that you can actually invest. So, the more skills a young person's got, the better it will be. They might even be able to start a business and get through education as well.
Well, you're there for people to emulate, like I emulated your dad, who got me through my O-level in history. It's a pleasure to talk to you, sir. Keep doing what you're doing. Give a final 15-second message for me.
Yeah, I just want everyone to aspire, to inspire before you expire. I want you to inspire higher for your children to see that. I want you parents to shine a light in your household. Speak a positive word. Think twice before you respond. Hold your tongue and think about hearing them. Understand them. Ask them why they're sad. Ask them questions. I'm sorry you feel this way, instead of coming down hard on them. Just take time with your children. Lift yourself with the knowledge that on the resources that are on the internet and through books. Try your best and do your best, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And just enjoy the experience of being a parent. It is a great honor, and just be there for them in the best way that you can.
God bless you. Look after yourself. Nathaniel Peat there, talking to us as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a problem solver. He gave us some numbers there. We've got Adam French later on, and we'll certainly go through that. If you just tune in, this is Heard. You're going to be heard, but you've got to get involved, man. You can see in a little while all the ways to get in contact with the show. We'll be scrolling across the bottom, and I still have lots of people to talk to, but I do want to hear from you. If there are things that you hear during the show, if there are questions you have, problems, challenges, we've got a back room of people who will be quickly trying to find out ways for you. My name's Eddie, and it's a pleasure to be here. Next up, we've got Zoe Thompson. Zoe's a principal, or the principal, at Oasis Academy, and all through school from age 2 to 19 in North London, where over 90% of the students go to university. Ooh! Hello, Zoe.
Hi, Eddie. It's my first time speaking to you. I'm truly honoured, but I must say, it's not my first time listening to, meeting and working with Nathaniel Peat and the Safety Box. They do some incredible work. They've done that here at Hadley, and the results and the impact are really significant, especially at a time where, there is a dearth of support that our young people so desperately need. They're doing a great job. So I needed to say that first. Hello. Hello, Eddie.
That's all right. Right. You clearly, you say so first. You're not shy. You're clearly. I'm not going to have a problem with you talking, am I?
We've got 1,600 children here. It's not a job to be shy for. We're open 355 days a year with lots and lots of things going on, and I'm hoping to be able to share some of those with you this evening.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's quite difficult for me, because while I know that we're here because we have some challenges, what the show is meant to do, what this whole thing is about, is providing solutions, and to talk to people who have perhaps had to, through adversity, perhaps, but come up with some of the solutions themselves. The thing about, we talked about entrepreneurial kind of, get up and go there. Are children encouraged to be themselves and different? I really struggle with that with my child. It feels like my child has to be not too tall, not too short, not too fat, not too thin, not too rich, not too poor, not too clever, not too whatever. And it's almost like identikit. Tell me what you do with those 1,600 young people.
Well, one of the things that we do is to encourage them to be individuals and to find, their gifts and talents, because of all of our 1,600 children, they're all individual and they're all very different. And for us, providing a really good education is obviously the mainstay. But what's also important is providing opportunities for the future. So, things like careers advice, access to, future employees, professions, universities, and all of those things are really important. One of the things here is that, that's not something that starts at 16 in year 11. We have somebody here who's just dedicated to creating careers and enrichment opportunities. And that starts right in early years for us. With people, it may start, with our firemen and our nurses and our doctors coming to visit them and speak to them, and them going on visits as well, and visiting universities, going for open days, enrichment events, and especially even some of the best companies will do that. We'll bring them in and send them out. So one of the things that we want to do is encourage our children so that by the time they leave here, they're in a position to make an informed choice about what they do, that they can choose to whether they go to university or not, or what job they do, and not have that chosen for them. Eddie, we know, where we are in Northeast London, we're in an area of really significant economic and social deprivation. And I know that there are lots of people out there in this climate that are ready to take advantage of our young people through gangs, sexual exploitation. All of those things are rife. And that life, for many of our children can appear really seductive. They can be offered essentially, care and brotherhood and protection. For us, it's really important that we are that. We are also family at school. Family is number one. It's really important, but it doesn't stop when you leave home. When you come here, we are family. We welcome you as family. We welcome you as that individual. We're open here for normally about 355 days a year. We're open 7 days a week. Our children can be here from 7 in the morning. They're here till 6 in the evening. We also then have events until 10 with our community that they can also be involved with. Nathaniel highlighted the issues about what happens after 3 o'clock when children leave, where we see our responsibility as family, as care, to challenge what they might find on the street, to have it here where we know that they'll be supported and looked after and cared for. So those are the sorts of things where we start to try and encourage our young people to be themselves and make informed decisions about, their lives and their choices and what happens to them.
It's really difficult. We're losing you. It's fascinating what you're going to say.
Oh, no.
But your signal is not all that it could be, I'm afraid. So it might make it a bit difficult for people to follow. Yeah, no, I'm upset by that, because I'm really interested, because I know any successful school building organization has to have a fantastic leader. So it'd be interesting to get in some of your mindset. Tell me, lots of people tell me that schools are kind of a triangle: the parents, the teachers, and the children. How much do you encourage parents to get involved? How much do you liaise with them? And not just when the child has done something wrong.
Well, I think it's about constant communication. You're right. It's not just when something goes wrong. And, the key thing for us is, I'm sitting here in school now. It's a parents' evening happening. They're going to still be here for another hour. But we do invest, and we have parent support advisors as well that help parents and help, and in those times where it's really challenging. We've got busy parents with lots of things on, with lots of challenges in their lives. Nathaniel and yourself have spoken about some of the challenges that, our teenagers encounter, and that's difficult for everybody. And sometimes we need a bit of support to get over that. So, at those times of, where it gets difficult, or crisis, if you like, that there's somebody who's supportive, who understands, who can take you through that. But you know what, Eddie, one of the most important things is is to, I like to say, we call it as it is. You know, what we try not to do is to pretend that we're not in the environment that we are. We know that there are issues around vapes, around drugs, around smoking, around gangs and all of those sorts of things. And so having those conversations as early as possible is really important. If we wait until there's a problem, generally,
So do you have
all the time,
right.
all the time. We've got to be really vigilant about those things. We talk to the children about it all the time, and also around social media and our parents as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, actually, because I did wonder if you waited for the problem, if you tried to get hold of it.
No, you can't.
As I said, you know, Andrew Tate is a thing in a lot of schools. Is it in yours?
I think anybody who said that Andrew Tate hadn't affected anybody in their school wouldn't be telling the truth. What we did as soon as is start the conversation and the debate around Andrew Tate and about why it is he is being
When
followed.
did you know it was a problem, though? That's what's quite interesting to me. When did you know it was a challenge?
As you know, we've all heard things on the news, but we'd like to hear about what happens in other schools and sharing that. And as head teachers and as leaders, we work in a network. So for us, when it became a problem at someone else's school, I'm not going to wait until it comes here and then go, oh dear, we've got a problem with Andrew Tate. You know, there's a problem down the road. There's a problem in London. As soon as we heard about it, as soon as we do that with any issue, let's talk to our children. Let's show them what it is. Let's have a debate about it. And I'm not, you know, I wouldn't say, I think that helped many of our children to have conversations with each other about that and what they're seeing and what they're hearing. And then still there may be one or two, or we did have one or two who still were taken by that kind of seductive dream existence that he lives. And then we need to offer, then we go into a different mode and offer some really intensive support to that young person. But for all of these things, it really is about opening it up, talking about it. You know, it's easier to say, do you know what? We don't have any of those problems in our school. I accept that all of those problems that are in our community is part of us. Let's talk about them. Let's, you know, use our partners, people like Nathaniel, and we've got a great community team here as well to open that up and to deal with it. Let's call it as it is. And then we can.
I need to jump in. I tell you what, the line is getting worse and worse.
Oh no!
And I don't want you to go. Yeah, but I don't want you to go without giving us some things as parents that, from your perspective, would help you to do your job, right? So, what do you need from us parents?
Please check your child's social media. All right. You wouldn't put your child in a room with a whole load of people that you don't know and that you don't know from Adam, but that's what's happening on social media. It may not be your child, but you don't know who they're with. Please check them, check the accounts that they have. If you go on to Internet Safety Online or even the NSPCC, it will show you how that you can track your child's usage on each one of those apps, because quite often that's where they're getting this information from things, you know, from Andrew Tate to all the other things, to gang affiliation, sexual exploitation. All of these ideas are often coming from those chat groups and from people who may or may not be their friends. So please get in their business, get on their phones, check them regularly. It's not a place for them to have private time. It really isn't. There are too many people who are out to exploit them. So parents, be brave, have a look at the phone, make sure you monitor it regularly.
And what message you when you accept an invitation to come on to something like this, clearly you want to speak to me, and it's a great opportunity for you to meet me, and I know that's a big part of it, right? But what is it that you really are passionate to say? Because I'm trying to use it off before we lose you completely. Tell me your passion. What is the message that you're passionate to deliver?
It's all the things that we were saying. Let's be open all the time. Let's all work together. It does take a village to raise a child, and your school is part of that village. We are part of the village. Let us do that together. Let's have the wraparound care from the smallest children to the oldest children. They need it. Just because they look big and they act big, it doesn't mean that they are, as you know, Addy, with your teenager, as you've alluded to there.
I do. Can you help me? What does mean? You're a teacher, so you clearly have learned to work out what this confusing language they use at certain points.
I'll come back
What does
to
he
you on
mean?
that one.
Listen, I'm sorry. Please, let's do this again. Let's see if we can get you hardwired. I think what you do is fantastic. Please, we appreciate everything that you teachers do. Even if it isn't always obvious that everyone else does. Thank you very much. Just before you go, though, I'm about to speak to Adam French, and he's doing money stuff, right? But how much? I had a teacher on the other day who said to me, A, we have to ask for money at the beginning of a school year. We ask for voluntary contributions. And B, we want recognition in the budget for some of the keeping the rooms warm, keeping corridors warm. You talk about your school being 355 days. That must cost a lot of money. You must have qualifications equivalent to the Chancellor of the Exchequer. You know, you're juggling lots of things. How much is that a challenge?
It's a huge challenge. Budgetary constraints are a huge challenge to all schools. I don't ask our parents for contributions, but at the same time, each school has their priorities. For us, safety and well-being has to be number one, because if our children are safe and they're well, we can teach them better. And if that means opening up for longer hours, for more days, that's what we'll do. There is, luckily at the moment, there are funds which you can access to help us to do those things. And that's what we do. It's tight. It's really, really difficult. But it's what is your priority of your school for your children in your area, and that's what we're doing.
A pleasure to speak to you. As I say, hopefully we'll do this again, Zoe. Appreciate it. And I'll let you get back to your parents' evening now. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's Zoe Thompson there, who's a head teacher, and I hope that we can support those teachers in order to get what we want, which is our child doing as well as they possibly can. You're watching Heard. We're in all sorts of different places. Hopefully we can do more of these, which is getting real problems and giving real solutions with real people, experts in the field. And it's a pleasure to have you with us, as I say. If there's something that we can help you with, so we've had Zoe, we've had Nathaniel, and we've had Liv Peck, who is chair of the Mayor of London's Violence Reduction Unit. And if there is some aspect of this that we can help you with, that's what we're doing here, right? That's what we're doing. We're trying to problem solve. Big problem for me is money, finance, broke, brassic. I don't know about you. So how do we combat some of the challenges? How do we mitigate against some of the things that I think most of us are feeling? So I've got a gentleman called Adam French on the line. Adam, how are you?
Hi, Eddie. I'm very good. How are you?
Are you speaking? Can I hear you? Or am I
I'm definitely speaking.
I'm going to have another battle with a difficult and challenging system with you. Tell them who you are and tell them who you work for, because I know you enjoy doing that, because as I understand it, it's a brand new job. Congratulations to you, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm, personal finance journalist and expert. I worked at Which Magazine for a number of years. I've worked for various different publications. I've had my work published in national papers, magazines, basically all dedicated to trying to save you money and navigate what is quite a complicated world of personal finance. But we're talking here really putting pounds back in your pocket. And to be perfectly honest, there's never been a more important time to really care about this stuff. We all know the challenges we've all faced in the last 2 years in particular, well, going back even to the pandemic. Like, money has been tight. The cost of living crisis has been pretty brutal on all of our budgets, mine included. I come from a place where I grew up with very little. I grew up in a council estate. I've been very skint in my life. So hopefully I can speak from a place of experience, but also how we've managed to navigate that as well.
Hi guys, I'm Lois. Okay, I was just going to say, if you keep talking, Adam, we'll sort out the technical difficulties. While Eddie's just sorting that out, thank you for sharing what you're doing, and it'd be great for you to share a little bit more about how we've got amazing parents and carers on the calls today, and they are literally notepad and pen in hand, waiting to hear from you what they can be doing.
All right, then. Let's start with something. Well, the big one, I suppose, is benefits. But let's put that word benefits to one side, because I think it comes with a lot of baggage given the media climate around that over the last 15, 20 years, really. It's financial support, and it's financial support that you are more than likely entitled to. The amount of benefits to go unclaimed every year in this country is estimated to be around £15 billion. Just let that number sink in. That's pretty huge. £15 billion goes unclaimed every year, according to research by an organisation called Entitled To. And that's a lot of people don't know what they're entitled to. Often you are required to be quite proactive in making those benefit claims as well. And that's money that should be supporting you through paying your energy bills, paying the food bills, being able to take your kids out and do entertaining things rather than leaving them potentially exposed in those in between after school hours, for example. So this money is hugely important. A lot of people are entitled to it and not actually getting it. Now, the good news is there are two really, really useful websites that you can go to, which I'll give you. They're really helpful. They have calculators on them. So you can put in details about your personal circumstances, simple stuff like how much you earn, how many people live in your household, how many kids are there, whether you're a single parent or you're a couple living there, for example. You can put this information in and it will give you a rough readout of the kind of benefits you could be entitled to that maybe you aren't claiming. So there's two really good websites. One is the organisation which did that research that found 15 billion is going unclaimed, and that's Entitled To. So their website is entitled2.co.uk. But if you just Google Entitled To, you should be able to find them. The other one is an organisation called Turn To Us, and it's the number 2, so it's turn2us.org.uk, and they also have a benefits calculator as well. So the first place to start, if you are struggling, if you are maybe only working part-time, you're out of work, for example, is to try those websites, because there's every chance there is money that has your name on it that you are not claiming right now. So my most important tip straight off the bat is always to check that you are getting what you're entitled to, because so many people miss out on that money, and it's frankly scandalous. I mean, not to break the media narrative around this, but you always hear about people claiming stuff fraudulently. The amount that's claimed fraudulently is absolutely dwarfed by the amount that is legitimately owed to people and not being claimed. So don't be shy, ignore any stigma around it. That's money that's rightfully yours. Do we have Eddie back? Are you back?
Maybe not. He's not hearing, sorry. But I'm here. I'm literally, my mouth is wide open. Adam, did you say, how much billion did you say is
15.
unclaimed benefits?
15. So this is based on research by the organisation Entitled To, which is that is an extraordinary amount of money that we are all owed effectively. So I would massively encourage you, if you are missing out on that, to make sure you're checking to see if that's money you're entitled to. There are other forms of sort of financial support that go unclaimed, and one of the ones that's probably really underreported, a lot of people aren't aware of, is if you have a child who's age 4 or under, or if you're pregnant at the moment, congrats. But actually there's something called Healthy Start, which is funded by the NHS. And actually what they give you is a prepaid card, which offers you sort of anything from £4.25 per week upwards. So you can get a lot more than that. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but every little helps. And you can spend it on things like healthy food, milk, vitamins, food for your children, for example. Now, more than 200,000 people are entitled to that and not claiming that at the moment. So again, that's a free money effectively from the state that so many people are missing out on. And at the moment, we know the pressures of energy bills, for example. We know the pressure of food bills. That little bit extra that's you have to kind of spend on groceries. You don't really have a choice if you want to use it. that can make a big difference as well. So I would recommend you check that out, and I can see that link's been shared on the sites as well. So that's really
Excellent.
good.
I am literally trying to share all these links so you can say them on the site. But this is phenomenal information, and it's real tangible things that people can be doing right now, which is so important. I mean, you know, honestly, I mean, there's loads of questions coming in here. There's a question here that somebody, Sue Lito's just mentioned, appreciating the myth busting with benefits as well, which is great. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't think they're entitled to. So the fact that we have these websites, I'll just post them again, that people can go on to and actually personally say what they're getting, and seeing if they can get a bite of that, however many billion unclaimed benefits there is.
I mean, it is a national scandal, to be perfectly honest, the amount of money that's being missed out on. It is a shocking figure every time you see it. Yeah.
We have another question coming through here just while Eddie's sorting out his volume. It was from Sue Lito. She said, any realistic tips to stay afloat during this cost of living crisis? Feels like an expensive time to even step out of your house if you're in London. And I mean, you've given us some great websites, but is there anything else that we should potentially be thinking about?
I mean, I hear this is horribly expensive, particularly in London. I wish I had a silver bullet for you to say that the cost of living crisis has gone away if you do this one easy thing. But in life, always be very skeptical of easy solutions to difficult problems. I wish I could give you something that was more straightforward, but it is about making sure you are claiming the money you're entitled to. It is about reassessing your budget at the moment in your outgoings. There are lots of things, particularly looking at April now, which are going to be increasing in price. So your broadband bill, for example, now if you're out of contract, that's probably going to go up sort of 10 to 15%, for example. So it's taking a much more active role in your finances. And I think a lot of people have been quite passive over the years as prices have stayed kind of flat. And at the moment, we're seeing prices really skyrocketing. So when it comes to, for example, your broadband or mobile bill, be active and actually decide if you want to stick with that company. Then you can try ringing them up and haggling. Now, a lot of companies are very open to that. I know it's not a very British thing to do, to haggle, but basically it's looking at what other deals are out there on the market and see if they'll match that at the very least. It could be 10, 15 minutes work online could save you over the course of a year, £200, for example. So it's well worth your time to do that. And actually, you may see a better deal whilst you're doing it and think, sod it, I'm going to switch. I don't need to pay that. And again, save yourself a couple £100 as well. So there's lots of little measures that you can take to sort of bring down your outgoings. Eddie and I were talking on Radio London the other day about when you're in a supermarket at the moment, the most common noise you hear is tutting. People pick things up and look at the price and tut. And that's certainly me at the moment. I look down, other people are doing that as well. So one thing you can do is downshifting to either the budget supermarkets, so Aldi and Lidl, if you're not there already. I know a lot of people are already there. Or making sure you're going to the own brands as well, instead of a lot of us, I'm guilty of this as well, loyal to certain brands of food and products, for example, but actually the own brand versions can be just as good and substantially cheaper as well. I'm glad Sue's also with the tutting there. They feel obvious because to a certain extent they are, but sometimes we just need a nudge to do these things, and they can start to chip away at some of the increased expense that we're seeing. But particularly for families at the moment as well, there is actually, and I'm thinking about that time, we've heard a lot about that for this talk, that time just after school, between the end of school, when you come home from work, for example, where, what can kids do to stay entertained? And there's something, it's got various different names. So passport to leisure cards, active cards, go for less cards. But a lot of local authorities and London boroughs, for example, will have these cards available, which can get your kids discounts to go into like the swimming pool, for example, to go into council run stuff. So do check that out as well, because that can help just whittle away at whether you can afford to send them off somewhere in that time or not. So any discounts you can get hold of are going to be hugely advantageous as well. So I'd definitely recommend checking it out too.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm sorry about that. I could see I realised what happened. It's my fault. I wonder. You stay in, Lois. I mean, it's a nice of you to have you here with us. So stay in. I wonder when it comes to bank accounts, when it comes to food shopping, when it comes to your gas and your lecky, whether, and I need you to be brutal, our apathy or lethargy, kind of deciding that we haven't got the amount of time to do it, is actually part of the problem. Because every single, including yourself, financial controller I've ever spoken to has said to me, if we took our 1 day of our holiday, 1 day, and addressed all of our financial concerns, we would save an awful lot more money than that 1 day.
I mean, that is true. But the secret is that these companies don't really want you to do that. These tasks are boring by design to a certain extent, because you're worth more to them if you have apathy. If you don't switch, if you carry on paying and just quietly take the increase coming to your broadband bill at the end of this month, for example, you're worth more to them. So why would they encourage you? And you know, I will always encourage and nudge people to take action, but ultimately there's no escaping the fact those tasks are pretty boring. They are level with you. They're not a fun thing. You don't get home from work and think, oh, brilliant, I'll switch broadband provider. Like, well, a few people think that, but most of us don't, let's be honest.
You keep saying broadband. I wonder if it isn't your car insurance. If you're
car insurance is exactly the same. Home insurance,
your mobile phone. Well, they'll let you carry on the mobile phone until you're buying it. They don't even tell you that you've already bought the phone twice.
Absolutely, and this is why when I talk about being much more active and involved in your finances is key, particularly with prices going up across the board. You're right, insurance, your mobile phone, where you've got you take out a contract, you're paying 50 quid a month for the latest iPhone, but actually after 18 months, you've paid off the phone and they're still creaming money off the top off of your account. Now,
it sounds illegal, by the way. Apparently it isn't, because I've checked.
Right for someone to complain about it.
It sounds like it shouldn't be.
A bit of a racket, isn't it?
Legal. So look, like I suppose parenting, we're going to have to be on the front foot with this, right? And I don't know about you, Lois. Lois, are you doing the vouchers? Are you doing the coupons? Because me and Adam, we're in it now.
I'm ready. I've been writing. My fingers are sore because I'm writing all these notes down. But I tell you, there's something Adam said earlier on about, the haggling. And I remember, I won't tell you how old I am, but my mum taking me to Wrigley Road Market when I was little and haggling over the fish and the meat. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we're doing that now. That was 30, 40 odd years ago. And I remember her haggling for every penny to make sure she can get a decent price on this lamb neck for the soup, for Saturday soup. But now I'm actually seeing that, you're saying we got to be doing that. It's weird. It's super weird. But I mean, everything you've been saying, I'm definitely going to be taking an hour or two out to go on some of those websites, because I mean, if it's going to make a difference to the bottom line of our household, I definitely think everybody should be doing
Is
that.
it worth it then? Evidence it for us. I mean, I've asked everybody this today. Evidence it is worth Lois's time to leave her children and let them sit in a room on their own so that she can do evidence it.
So when I worked at Which, we did some research. This is a few years ago now, so obviously the figures won't tally completely to what they are now. But we found if you took out the time to negotiate your broadband and mobile deals, the average saving over the course of a year on those two contracts was £120, which is a tidy saving, really. I mean, I appreciate some, depending who you're with. I won't name names, but certainly the broadband company I'm with may have used Usain Bolt in their advertising quite a lot in recent years. Now, you'll be stuck on hold for them for quite a while, and that's probably, that does become frustrating. And it can make a bit of difference, but sometimes you can switch in live chat. Sometimes they're on WhatsApp. Sometimes you can do it via the DMs on Twitter. So it's worth trying these avenues out, because sometimes there's a quicker way of doing that as well. And ultimately, if you see a better deal and you want to switch to it, then often the company you're switching to will handle all of that. And that goes for car insurance, for example. Mine's just come up for renewal. Don't accept the renewal, shop around, and I save 20 quid straight away. There's so many ways to do it. It's just when you get that prompt, that nudge, when you see how much something's costing, can I get it cheaper somewhere else? You need that mentality at the moment, because otherwise these companies will take advantage of you. They take advantage of rapper fees. So you just need to, every time you get that nudge, can I get it cheaper somewhere else? Have a quick look. Have a quick Google. We've all got smartphones. Have a look. See what else is out there. If there's something better, make the switch. You owe them nothing, and they will take your money if you let them.
What's the best? I never asked you this one. What's the best piece of financial advice you ever received, Adam?
All right, this is a bit involved, but here we go. It's about budgeting, and it's about knowing yourself. So I'm a spender. If I've got money, I want to spend it. I can't help it. And certainly in my early 20s, I got paid every month, and all I could think of about was how can I spend all this money for the rest of the month. I never thought about the future and about saving and about saving towards a house or just my pension or anything like that. It was just how do I spend the money this month? You have to almost fight your own psychology sometimes when it comes to managing your money. So what I've done is on payday, I've set up 3 or 4 different accounts where immediately that money's moved elsewhere. So my savings gets moved to an account which I can't get to as easily. Some money goes to what I call my fun account, where I've got a different current account where I have money that I can just spend on myself doing what I want to do. Go to the pub with my mates, whatever else it is. Go watch Norwich City lose constantly. Whatever I want to spend my money on is on that card. Then I've got another account where my bills come out of, and another savings account for my son as well. And that sort of just gets moved around a bit before I've even had a chance to think about it. And I know I need to fight my own psychology. So that was a big game changer for me. Now, you may think about money differently. Like plenty of people are really into the detail. They like keeping spreadsheets. They like knowing where every penny is allotted. If that's you, then lean into it.
But is that not part of the journey? Because I think that, you're walking along and you buy that £3 coffee and you go into Boots, and if you're like me, you buy the sarnie and you like your apples cut up, and then you buy a drink, and then before you know it, you spent a tenner in that day.
Yeah, exactly. But if you've got that money, that's my fun money. That's what I want to spend on.
Right.
Then
But you keep calling it money. It's tap, tap, go. It's not money anymore.
It's true. It's true. It's very easy to spend with tap, tap, go. But at least with that, once you've spent it, it's gone. You're not going to start digging into the money you need for your bills, for your savings, for your rent.
Yeah, if it's in a different account.
If it's in a different account. That's the key thing. Because that way, when it's gone, it's gone. You become a lot more careful with it. And it's like giving yourself pocket money. It's like giving yourself an allowance. And actually, it's the kind of thing you can set your kids up with as well, where you're like, well, there's some really good child accounts out there. So there's companies like GoHenry, which is a bit.
Hold on. Before you go there, I know that we've done this dance before, and Lois has got the big grin on her face, so I know she knows where I'm about to go. I like. What does he need money for? What does he need money for? I keep saying I've got to do it. I haven't done it. He's 14 in May, and I think his granddad gives him a couple of quid every now and again or whatever. But I don't actually give him pocket money, and I'm really worried that I've messed up here.
You haven't messed up. But it is good as early as possible, really, to get your kids used to money, to have conversations with them about money and be honest. Giving them pocket money, even from a really young age, even from like 4 or 5, you can give them tiny amounts of pocket money. I know having money left over to be able to do that with can be difficult, but even just a couple of quid. I mean, my granddad used to come over and give me 50p like once a month, basically, and I thought I was absolutely minted. Just that little bit of money that they can start to learn about how they can spend it and it's gone and they've got something, or they can save it and keep piling up, and maybe they can get the bigger, better, shinier thing that they're after. That's a really good life lesson to learn as early as possible, and it doesn't have to be an expensive lesson to learn whatsoever. It can be really cheap, because ultimately they don't usually want anything too expensive unless it's a new PlayStation that costs 400 quid. There are ways to start building that up, and actually then you can get onto a point when you're looking at maybe from the age of sort of 11, 12 through, you can start to think about them having their own sort of child's bank account and having a small amount, having their allowance on there, having their pocket money on there.
Are the ones that stand out at the minute?
So there is a company called GoHenry, which is very good. A lot of people recommend that. Now, I haven't got any personal experience with these yet. My little boy is not even 1 yet, so I haven't had to worry about these things. But certainly, like, there are plenty out there, and actually the likes of Money Saving, that's what Martin Lewis's website, they will give you some pretty solid recommendations as well. So
are you still signed up to that? Because I need to know. Are you
still signed up to it? I still get his newsletter.
Yeah, because it's like the top 5 newsletter in the entire country or something, isn't it?
It's huge. I mean, there's like 16 million
I don't know if
people.
you've ever had it, Lois, but I would
Yeah, I'm signed up.
sign up, because
I'm signed
every
up.
now and again you get a nugget in there and you're like,
Yeah.
you know, that's the man that people would mostly have as chancellor, isn't it, of the exchequer or something. And it is interesting how usually finance makes people not particularly well liked, but clearly we like you, Adam. And this guy, Martin Lewis, no, but I mean, he is, if I was to say who is the most trusted man in this country, he'd be in the shout, wouldn't he?
I think he regularly wins that exact vote, you know, helping people navigate what is quite a complex financial world. And money is, it's freedom, isn't it? If you can afford to do stuff, if you can afford to say yes, it makes all the difference. And you know, to bring it back to what we were talking about here, I mean, just making sure you are getting the money you're allowed and not spending money on things needlessly, not letting companies sort of fleece you a bit, and having that more money back. That means you say yes to more things. You say yes to your kids more often. You can say yes to your friends more often, like, because you can afford to do that. And that's really what it's about. It's not about the money. It's about what you can do with it. And I think that's a really important lesson, again, for children as well, is that's why you don't just spend it straight away when you get it. That's why you want to keep some back, because then you have the freedom to say yes to things. And that's brilliant. That's
another reason why I quite like Go Henry, because you can set tasks for the children as well, so they've got something to work for. You know, that kind of like they have that delayed gratification, which is, I feel we need to build more into our kids. You know, that you can't have everything straight away. And certainly with my boys, them having a Go Henry and setting a task of something they want to save towards actually has helped them to get that. So I love that app. I mean, I'm not affiliated in any way.
No, it is. I mean, parents speak to say exactly the same thing. It's worth checking out. I mean, it is turning into a bit of a game. It's turned into a game for them.
Is there a direction, finally, you could point us in towards, in terms of an email, a website, something that, you know, part of what we're doing today, as you can tell, is try to give solutions so that if you want it, you can say that you heard it here, quite literally. Is there one that you like?
Well, I would say Entitled to and Turn to Us are really good for navigating a complex world of benefits and financial support. There's also been something called the Household Support Fund, which government gave a block of money to local authorities. And that money is being used in lots of different ways. It could be free school uniforms. It could be like actually putting money towards doing your house up, for example, to be more energy efficient. So do check out your local authorities website as well, because there'll be loads of information on there also. And the whole I don't think it's just one site. It's, if you need help, ask for it, is the most important message. You know, Google it, ask for it. You know, feel free to tweet me questions or tweet Martin Lewis questions. You never know. He's got more followers than me. I'll be fair. You might struggle to get an answer, but you know, there's
hey, listen,
there are people out there willing to help. Importantly,
we got the 1-year-old there. We need to make you some money, otherwise you won't have any more. Because if you think about affording children, you will never have them. That's the one thing we absolutely know. And listen,
that lesson.
I owe you, mate. Thank you very much, and so do lots of other people. Appreciate your time very, very much indeed. His name, title, Adam French, personal finance and consumer journalist at mudrack.com. Thank you very much, and thank you. You stay there, because I know you're working the buttons behind there. You do this very well. You might get yourself a new job there, Lois.
I need it. There's a cost of living crisis going on.
Who you telling? Right. I bought I don't buy the cheap toilet paper though. I made that mistake the other day and I'm suffering from it. Anyway, that's too much information. Right. Let's get Laverne on, right? And Laverne is our child psychologist who always, she judges us. She gives great help to all the people who are listening, but I always feel like she judges us. Laverne, How are you?
I'm very well. What a start. Judges us. Okay, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
I think you're fabulous. Let's get on with it because there's quite a lot to unpick here. I mean, starting with Lib and the Violence Reduction Unit, and funny enough, you know, he said it, did Nathaniel? The name is very dramatic in itself, doesn't it? I almost feel my child doesn't need to be involved in that, but I know why they've gone for the title.
I think that's so right. I think language is so important, isn't it? It really distracts us from feeling that we might need to lean in and understand something. I mean, talking about violent children, you know, who's going to say, yes, that affects my family? But I really liked what Nathaniel said about being affected by. And the minute you start to talk in that way, the minute you start to relate to something, I think you allow yourself to think, well, how might my child be affected? What might happen? And I think it's those very, very gentle moves that makes it much easier to engage with, you know, places that have these very, very bold titles. But of course they have them because it's a real problem. And, you know, adults understand that. But you talk to children about that and they'll say, that's not me. And parents will say exactly the same because it feels too hard.
Yes, it does. You're listening to Heard. We're here discussing the program and things. But in case you just joined us, this is Laverne, Lois. My name is Eddie. And we have spoken to somebody who dedicates their life to turning children's lives around. Nathaniel Lib Peckett is in charge of the Violence Reduction Unit run by the Mayor of London. We've had Zoe on, and I have to owe Zoe a huge apology, looking after 1,600 children and just having fabulous results at my internet letting me down. I thought it was hers, but I do owe her an apology. And then you just had Adam there talking to us about but the theme of today, okay, is being active. So let me just say to you, if you are watching, listening to this, get involved, ask a question, make a point, let's reason for the last 10 minutes or so. Because Laverne, I was struck by how each of them was saying the same thing. Actually, this isn't easy. If you're going to win this, you're going to have to do it on the front foot. You're going to have to take control of the situation.
And you're going to have to start early. I think that's the key message throughout everybody's conversation tonight, starting early, you know, not being scared to have conversations with children about, you know, what's going on in their lives, asking them questions and realizing, I think, as a parent that actually, you know, you have to be on the front foot because if you're not, that's when the gaps appear. So I really liked that idea.
And in those gaps grows the poison.
In those gaps, something will come along that will capture your child's mind because there is a gap. And I remember speaking to a father once who said, you know, the gaming activities that his child was involved in stole her mind, stole him from her. And he wasn't prepared to put up with that. So he would limit the time she was playing and say to her, you know, I want to spend time with you. So I think you've got to be quite brave. You've got to be bold. You've got to take the knockbacks. There are not many children out there who are going to say, PlayStation, parent, in that easy way. You're going to have to pull them in a little bit and remind them that you're really interested in them. And so, you know, I think parents have got to have the confidence. I mean, Diane, when she started this, it was about making parents grow their confidence, you know, getting alongside their children. I loved what people were saying about, you know, checking phones. For me, it's not so much checking phones, it's saying, come and sit down next to me. What are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, there's checking and there's checking. You have to be quite subtle about this because if they have an idea that you want to be in, you're never going to get there. So I think, you know, knowing what you want to do and having a plan and approach to how you get close to that is really important.
The challenges, and we didn't talk about it today at all, Lois, we didn't talk about it at all, is that you're lucky, Lois, in that you're doing it with somebody. I'm lucky, I'm doing it with somebody. And we didn't talk about it today because it's a real difficult balance for me to be positive. Otherwise, you could just be down on everything, right? But there are a lot of people, particularly women, who are doing it on their own. And it isn't as easy to have that kind of time that you're talking about, Laverne, and to be on the front foot in that way. And in no way am I denigrating what they're doing. I hope everybody understands the context within which I'm saying what I'm saying. That's harder, isn't it? That's more of a challenge.
I think you're so right. I think we can have a sort of idea that one size fits all. And of course, that isn't the case at all. I think what we saw, people like me saw during the pandemic, was the importance of friendship, the importance of community. The amount of single parents that I heard from who would ring a friend, text a friend, you know, as you've said, Eddie, you know, make the most of the babysitting activities that are in the house. You know, you've got to do that sometimes to preserve your own sanity, and call a friend and say, this is going on. I'm not sure. Have you heard? Can you point me in the right direction? You know, our friends are really, really important. And I think if you're running a household on your own, on limited resources, as we're talking about tonight, being able to text a friend or have a conversation is priceless.
And not feeling as though you have to be perfect. You know, it's when you look around. I don't know about you, Lewis. Sometimes I look around and everybody looks as though they're working it out, man. They're doing it, and I'm like, oh, what's the matter with me? I'm falling apart. And actually, to be brave enough to make yourself vulnerable too, I suppose.
I think when people say, "How are you?" you know, for most part, people are genuinely wanting to know, and I think we have to take people up on that on face value. So I think if you're going to ask a friend, "How are they?" make sure you've got the time to really listen to how they are and to give them a little bit of support if they need it. But, you know, the bravery around not having, you know, a perfect life, you know, whatever it looks like on Instagram, I think is quite a challenge. But I really liked what Zoe said about school, because school actually is still, for many people, the one place that you can go to and somebody in that community will sit down with you or say, come back later and talk to you about what's going on and really show you some interest. And I think actually that's what we all need, to feel that people are interested in us.
Somebody cares.
And somebody cares. Yeah.
Lois, I can see the time, right? But I always want to use the people in front of me. They are my living case studies, the embodiment of all the things that we're talking about. For reference for Laverne, is there something that somebody said that made you think of what's going on in your house today?
I was blown away by, you know, all of the guest speakers today. I've been making copious notes down here. Certainly what Adam was saying, some real tangible actions, and I really do hope that people really took on board some of that stuff. And even if it's just an hour a day, I think somebody commented that they did it once and it was so boring and laborious calling around, but they got a deal. And I mean, Adam made reference to a broadband company, and it was a 30-minute conversation, but he saved £120 for the year. And I'm like, that's
we can work.
That's worth it. That's worth switching off the TV and just saying, I'm just going to make a couple of calls, because we're at that time now, like, where we don't have the luxury of just saying, oh, I'll leave it for another time. That was super important. And I mean, I loved Zoe as well, the head mistress that was on as well, the head teacher. Her school sounds amazing. It sounds more of a family and a community than it does. Certainly doesn't sound like a school that I went to, but you know, the fact that her and her team are doing so much to make her school a family, a community. And I certainly during lockdown and just working in the community work that I do along with Father to Father, we saw that school was a community, and when that community was taken away from the kids, you know, it was almost like family being torn from them. And I think, you know, so seeing Zoe and how her school is you know, creating that community and that family environment, you know, it's commendable.
Okay. Just finally, Laverne, if you will, for me, speak to time. I mean, it's a thing that we think we're broke, but I think we have least of is time. I took the boys to, I'd never been before. I took the boys to the V&A. They had the African exhibition up there. And I went there and I was like, how is it that I've never been here before? Because obviously, if we're talking about doing stuff on a budget, and we make some cucumber sandwich and corned beef, bully beef, and put the rucksack on our back. That's time. That isn't money, is it?
That's definitely time. And I think that, we have got to bring our ideas down about what the big noise is and do the simple things. Like you say, a packed lunch, take yourself off. London's an expensive city, but it's a great city, for being on your feet and walking around. And the time, I think that what we've got to remember is that for many parents tonight listening, for myself, the things you remember are about the time you spent with your parents or parent. Not doing the big things, but doing the little things. And actually, when you become a parent, it's about recreating those moments, having the confidence to know that the things that you remember are probably the things that you want your children to remember about the time you spent with them. So yes, we're in a financial predicament, but most people have got a pair of trainers, got a rucksack, make a couple of sandwiches and go and discover what's out there for free. It sounds like a cliche, but it's not about the freeness. It's about the time you're spending with each other.
100%.
Laverne, I don't remember the trainer that I wore when I was 10. I couldn't even tell you. I remember wearing wallabies at some stage, but I do remember my parents putting us in the back of the car and driving us to the top of the hill near Ali Pali, and we just sat there with corned beef sandwiches watching the fireworks in the car
Astounded.
for an hour.
And
and we didn't pay to go into Ali Pali, but we just sat there in the back of the car with corned beef sandwiches, and it's exactly what you're saying.
some of the best views in London.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you very much, Laverne. Always
Be with you.
deliver. Brilliant. Keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate what you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laverne is the child psychologist. And Lois, look at you doing a little extra business there. As it feels, stepping up and stepping in.
Clearly, I don't know. I mean,
You want
I
to
don't know
quickly
what
tell us
happened.
about Father to Father while you're there?
Absolutely. Actually, I work for an organisation called Father to Father. We're a community interest company. And if you are in the Enfield area, what we've been doing just to help with the cost of living crisis, every Friday for the last 8 weeks, we've been pitching up at Bushhill Park Primary School between 5 and 7. You and anybody else can come along and get a free meal, hot meal. You don't need to be on benefits. You don't need to be homeless. You just want to come and spend 2 hours in a family environment, having a hot food and drink, and just with other like-minded people. So it's completely free. We're there tomorrow. Oh my goodness, this week's going super fast. But we're doing loads of great things in the community with Nexus and Herd. It's great that, we're like a little family or a big family, all the different organizations working together for one main goal, and that's to support the people that really need it in our communities.
That's the future, isn't it? That's the future.
Absolutely.
And thank you for your support today. Really much appreciated, Lois. Thank you very, very much indeed. I just want to say thank you very much to everybody. And if you'd like to hear more events like this, and certainly I think, what we have to do now is make sure we get it out there so that more people see it, hear it, and understand exactly what we're doing here. Please, you can go to, there's a QR code on wherever you are watching it. There is, put your phone at that. You fill in a short questionnaire, and then give us guidance of what you need, what we can do it, how we could better publicize it, the types of guests you'd like on it, the types of subjects, the types of challenges, lots of pointing in directions of different charities in terms of helping to support not just young people, but us, because actually, they do say, put the oxygen on yourself before you put it on anyone else. So I want to say thank you very much to Carol London Baptiste from the Violence Reduction Unit, and to the sponsors, Violence Reduction Unit, Nexus, Enfield Council, Father to Father. Thank you very much to Zoe, Nathaniel. Thank you to Lib for popping in. Didn't expect to see her today, if I'm honest with you. One of the mayor's deputies bothering and coming on. And also, I want to thank Adam and all the backroom staff here for Herd. So look, it's there. We're here. We're trying to do a little bit. Everybody's trying to help everybody else. A Herd event evaluation for today is there. Be nice about me. whatever you say about the event, don't be horrible about me. Lois, well done to you. God bless you. See you again soon. As I say, thanks to the backroom staff, and look after yourselves, and let us know, and then we will try to help. Take it easy. Good night.